Welcome into Inside LAFC podcast. We are live on LAFC YouTube. We're live on LAFC Facebook. We are live on LAFC X, and we're also live on LAFC Instagram. Thorough, because it's big now. We're heading towards the postseason. It's a big show, and I want to start off with a comment that I saw right from the jump here from Korea DP in Korean. His comment, "What is this? It's Inside LAFC podcast." That's what it is. I'm Max Bretos, Brian Johnson. I had to. The only place to start that, Dunny, is right at the top of the show.
Yeah, no, listen, as always, appreciate the time I'm in. Love being here with you. And, man, here we are, business end of the season. We have clarity about who the opponents are heading in the playoffs. We have an idea of what it looks like in terms of brackets and how to make it to an MLS Cup final. And now you're talking about momentum. You're talking about form. You're talking about confidence. Especially with the international window in the rearview mirror. How does Steve Cherundolo and his group get themselves prepared for what is probably going to be a lot of very, very, very thin margins when we're talking about separating wins and losses at this stage of the season?
We will talk about LAFC's playoff beginnings, which will feature Austin. We're going to have to wait a bit. It's not till next Wednesday, October the 29th, but bear with us. Ramp up the playoff enthusiasm. You can do it right here this Monday and next Monday. We invite you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel. Already, I can tell it's going to be a big show, Dunny. A lot of folks coming up saying hello. We have Talk 1013 saying, "Dunny is back. Yay." There you go. And John Lee, I have questions for panel. Fire away. Leave comments in the question, whatever platform you're listening in. We will get to it if we have the time, but we try to make the most of it. And if you have a good question, it will 100% be addressed here. Good afternoon from Vancouver, Canada. Well, welcome. I don't know where your rooting interest here, but fans from every club are welcome here on Inside LAFC podcast. So we'll get into the playoff stuff, but let's put a bow on the final match of the season. It ends Colorado 2, LAFC 2. Dick's Sporting Goods Park remains a difficult venue for the guys in black and gold. They still have only won once there in 2018. They were facing a Rapids team. We saw it in the second half. There was no tomorrow. They're out of the playoffs. So 30 teams began MLS. We're now down to 18. Rapids are not one of those. You could feel it there, Dunny, at the end, throwing everything in the kitchen sink because they had to. This was it. If they won this game, I don't think it would have been enough. They would have needed, no, it would have been enough because of what happened in the Salt Lake game. So it didn't happen. So take that into consideration.
Yeah.
A good start for LAFC. All the internationals were back. They were all there in the starting the 11, with the exception of Nathan Ordaz. And I think that's something we have to consider too, because remember, Son Heung-min is coming from Korea. Denny Bouanga is coming from Gabon. So long trips, which it'll be known because of that big gap between now and the playoffs. They'll be able to really recharge the battery. So taking all that into consideration, how did you see this performance from LAFC?
Absolutely dominating first 45 minutes. I mean, I was joking with you. We were watching or keeping an eye on the game as we were calling Portland against San Diego. Max, it very easily could have been 6-7-0 at halftime. And they were unfortunate. A couple of incredible reaction saves from Zach Steffen on Denny Bouanga. Denny had 4 or 5. Really good looks. Zach Steffen was huge. You had Porteous header, diving header. You had at the back stick, Ryan Hollingshead on 2 occasions. Sonny with a phenomenal goal. I think defenders, similar to the conversation about Lionel Messi, I think when you're isolated one-on-one with either Denny Bouanga or Son Heung-min, you just don't want to go viral as a defender, right? Like Maxu and Holding, they were on skates. They were leaning. They were scared. They didn't want to go touch tight. And that's the ability of both of these guys, at full speed, quick little scissor, shift to the hips, and all of a sudden you've got the goalkeeper at their mercy. So if I was being critical, and I know we'll talk about the second half in a second, but I really think the only critical aspect you can have of that first half performance is that LAFC didn't go into the halftime break up 3-0. It was very evident to me that Chris Armas, who has since apologized for his outburst post-match to a local affiliate.
Burgundy Wave.
Yeah, so he apologized to Matt. That just came out on social a few minutes ago. I felt like watching Colorado that they were set up for the least amount of jeopardy in that first 45 minutes. And I think at this stage of the season, if you're not comfortable and confident in who you are, and it's a must-win game, then it really does set a light and helps us understand, from a psychological and a physical standpoint, where you truly are as a team. Because there were moments in which Denny Bouanga and Sonny were both outside of the penalty area, and LAFC had 5 to 6 players inside of the penalty area. So, movement, the standard of play, the consistency of performance, that was all there. I think in the second half, it tells me a different story. Obviously, the mistake from Hugo Lloris is so uncharacteristic from a guy that's played at the highest level in the biggest jeopardy stakes of his career for both club and country. He found himself in a moment where the press from Paxton Aronson was fantastic. He got caught. Aronson was probably quicker than he realized. And at the last second, he tries the toe poke, which Aronson redirects. You can be, I think for me, when I look at Palencia and Porteous in the buildup, in the goal scored by Darren Yappy, there's a communication issue. You can tell the moment that Yappy scores, they kind of look at each other and like, hey, what happened here? It was a great goal from Yappy. But then the substitutes come off the bench and Abobasi pings the post. Morin's in the right place at the right time with a good finish. He played a big role in the buildup, even though the shot was from Jeremy. So at the end of the day, I think there's 2 ways to look at it. Oh, actually 3 ways. Inefficient when there are opportunities in the first half, if we're being critical. Second half, you got to defend better and manage that game. But third, I think there's a positive to take away from it. Because what LAFC shows me is that, and take away Austin just debilitated by international duty. That come from behind tie, while disappointing, says to me that this is a team psychologically, Max, that knows how to turn losses into draws into wins. And I think that's frightening for one of the most informed teams in the Western Conference. Because right now, LAFC, San Diego, Vancouver are clear definitive favorites in the Western Conference playoff race.
I think that's a really important detail because I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think all 3 of those teams, I'd be shocked if one of them misses out into the next round. I think LAFC is going to be a massive favorite against Austin FC, who lost against San Jose in the final round of the season. A lot of these top teams, you look at how they performed. Vancouver were down to 10 men and they lost to a very hungry Dallas team, but they ended up well. We saw the San Diego game. We'll talk about that. They were phenomenal. Inter Miami ends well. LAFC doesn't really end great, but there are some things there I think you can take into it. They are going to be looking up to a couple teams in the West as a result of the run-in. Even if they won this game, they would have finished third. But just to go through some of your points there and how to look at it, I mean, 3 ways is a lot to put on my plate here to look at a game there, Dunny, but I'll do my best.
You're welcome.
Halftime, you never see a halftime almost at a goal XG at 2. And LAFC were 1.93. Which is an astronomical number because you don't have enough time to build that up. If you do a first half like the second half, it's telling you probably should score 4 goals, which is way above anyone's average per game. 13 shots, 7 on target. Colorado 1 shot, none on target. And then in the second half, the team did look a bit leggy, and I could certainly give them an excuse because of the extensive international break in this World Cup cycle. Everyone's dealing with it. Everyone has players away on international duty. I would say, like we saw San Diego, Dreyer looked fresh as a daisy. He's a freak of nature, that guy. I don't know what to say. But I think LAFC, you're dealing with a couple older players. In Son's case and the travel, it certainly is going to pile up. I also want to mention about the subs. Very optimistic about what we got off the bench. The Andy Morin goal, which I think that stretch that he had with combining with a couple players was the best we've seen from Andy Morin, which is great news because he could be a real Swiss Army knife coming off the bench. Jeremy Abobasi is going to be the first number 9 off the bench. It's been a little hot and cold, but I think you see a promising uptick as well from him. Jailson's getting closer. And speaking to Steve Cherundolo, he says Jailson can play center back. So you have cover for whoever's back there, Porteous, Segura, and who am I missing? Tafara. Yeah. So you have cover for that. So this is all very positive to see what it come in there. Smolyakov starts on the bench. You have that competition with Ryan Hollingshead. So very, very good. Inside LAFC podcast. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. I've ignored our comments here. Dakoog, here's my question. We absolutely love Hugo, love him, but what happened? I think Dunny pointed out. I mean, that's like a 1 in a million. Because I've had people say that about Hugo, and I'm like, you can't look at that. It was but this is Hugo Lloris.
Yeah, listen, I think every goalkeeper has a mistake in them. And it's about minimizing the mistakes and not repeating the mistakes. And it's not as if Hugo hasn't been put in the same situation where maybe he's chopped himself out of trouble, or he's inadvertently megged an attacking player, or he's just lumped one into Rosette for a throw-in. I mean, the reality, even out for a corner kick, it happens. It happens multiple times throughout a goalkeeper's career, and it's a part, unfortunately, of the modern game. If we have such an emphasis on keeping possession, which virtually every team does, 99% of the teams do at the highest level, then these are going to be moments where, a goalkeeper wants the ball in his dominant enough foot, gets caught under a little bit of trouble, and he gives up the goal. And by the way, you can tell immediately, puts his hand up. It's his responsibility. It happens in training. It happened in the game. And you just hope that the same mistake isn't made his head in the playoffs, where there'll be much more peril if a mistake like that is made.
Very true. So there you go. Craig Griffin, he'll back us up. Time for a new winning run. Hugo won't make that mistake twice. We have a new goal scorer in Andy Morin, and LAFC fight until the end of the game. Lots of positives. They fell behind in that game. They scored the goal. That goal is huge. We'll get to the details here shortly. Our good friend, Juan Vargas. Dunny, can you confirm or deny that you and Nick Raimondo were paid in Hooters gift cards while playing for the Miami Fusion?
I can confirm. We had
Get out of here.
We had a Hooters card with our names on it, and it said Miami Fusion, and 95% discount on food. No alcohol, just food. And somehow I figured out a way to utilize that significantly and eat somewhat healthy at the same time.
Very good. A good Miami diet to the fine folks at Hooters. Hope LAFC beats Austin. Semifinal against the Whitecaps will be a tough one. In fact, that's from our friend in Vancouver. Yeah. Do you know ATX FC History, who's commentating the game? We'll have more details, but a very good chance we'll be out there in Austin. So stay tuned. But we're thrilled to be part of the Dunny and I of the MLS Season Pass postseason campaign. Felt bad for Hugo de Coog. Yeah, I know. But, he can take it. Hugo is a legit professional. He will wipe that away. Andy Morin, good on you. I think Lloris made that same mistake against Croatia in the World Cup, if I remember correctly. Bonifer, I'll have to check on that. But look, we're not going to beat up on Hugo. I'm so thrilled that he's back there. Goalkeeping and defending will get teams through in the postseason, right, Dunny? Even though MLS is an attacking league and we are defined by our attackers, I feel good about what we have defensively here. We'll talk about them as well. I feel good compared to what I think other teams might have in the Western Conference.
Maxie, let's do a little walk through memory lane. On the backside of losing at home against San Diego, I believe it's 6 wins in a row for LAFC. You get into the international break, you beat Toronto, you lose to Austin FC. Abogasi had that clear-cut opportunity that could have changed the complexion of the game. And then you go to this game and you end up drawing. While not the draw you wanted, with understanding the complexity of the Western Conference, there wasn't a lot of jeopardy. And I'm not suggesting psychologically they've taken their theoretical foot off the gas pedal. But I think we have to, we sometimes forget that there's like nuance in all of this. And again, all of a sudden, I think there's such intensity in our feelings about the way LAFC is playing right now that we kind of go a little bit more negative than a little bit more positive. And again, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm more of a glass half full type of guy. But since the loss at home against San Diego FC, the 6 wins, a team that is figuring out ways to compete with these extra games that you had to make up, whether it's FIFA Club World Cup or other international domestic tournament experiences. All of a sudden, you've got guys that are playing more significant minutes. You have more clarity about who could potentially push for a starting spot, even more clarity about who guys you can rely on off the bench. And maybe the most important clarity is there's going to be at some point a couple of these guys that are not in the starting 11 that I am of the belief of one simple theory, that you can rely on guys all season long, but it actually might be the guy you haven't been relying on that becomes the most important performer for your team. And whether that's off the bench or that's spot starting, the one benefit is, I think, from games like Leagues Cup, whether it's Cruz Azul or it's Tigres, when they beat Tigres without Sonny, without Denny Bouanga, without the big name players, that I think that comes back 100 times fold at this stage of the season, understanding that there's a short amount of time, jeopardy with yellow card accumulation, all of these things can certainly happen. So I'm going to choose to look at it from more of a positive angle than a negative angle.
Inside LAFC podcast, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I just looked at the X Twitter page. Tons of people tuning in. The Inside LAFC podcast. Great to see it on our maiden voyage there. So very exciting as well. Let's talk about Sonny. 9 goals in 9 games as he returns from international duty. There was a comment here, and I scrolled past it, so I'm looking to where it was again. Taku did want to mention you're a very wise man. 06327. It was only a few players on international break. It was 4, but the 2 are the 2 big ones. So you're very happy to have them, including Sonny, who came back. Did want to mention this from Space Lung. He says the late subs barely made the dent. They came in and made the impact because they were down to the wire. How do we feel about Dolo not changing things sooner? First sub came in around 75th minute. I thought I was feeling like maybe they should have come a little sooner, but Steve knows a lot more about the roster, and certainly with both Bouanga and Son did come out. Son came out in the 76th minute. I think in a normal circumstance, if he's 100%, he would go the full 90. And then late in the game, Nate Ordaz in the 89th replaced Danny Bouanga. So, yeah, I thought a little sooner, but he can tab these guys for sure.
Yeah, listen, I think there's an instinctual understanding, and this is more of a broad stroke, Max, that if you're going to make your subs, you start at the hour mark. And that's fine. I mean, that's fine. But I think there's something to be said about when you look down your bench and you see the guys warming up down there, in your mind, you've already categorized who you believe in and who you don't believe in, who you trust, who you don't trust, who you think can make an impact or not make an impact. And I have an affinity growing up in Southern California and being around Ziggy Schmidt as a teenager and a young college kid and going to Cal State and watching him at UCLA, and then the success he had with the Galaxy and Columbus Crew, and then Seattle before passing away. And he became one of my favorite quotes of all time. And he sat down with me one time and he said, you know, Dunny, as an assistant coach, you have all these theories, right? And you have, oh, we should bring him in, or we should bring him in. But at the end of the day, it's the manager that's responsible. And he said, I always have one theory. Don't tell me who to bring on. Tell me who to take off. And how does that make my team better? How does that help us find the game winner? How does that see that game out? And so there's a complexity. When we talk about change, I just think the coaches staff in the modern games, Max, they just don't think about, oh man, 60th minute, I better make my 2 midfield change. Oh man, it's the 65th minute. I should think about making a winger. There's something that isn't statistical. There's something that's not a data point. It's not an XG related. It's not possession with purpose, or it's not big chance generation. None of these things we look at. Maxie, it's something right here where when you're on the field and you can feel it and you can see and you trust the players, that goes a longer way than just saying like, hey man, maybe he should have changed earlier. Because here's the reality, Max, we look at managers, and when they make changes and guys score goals and you end up winning a game, it's like, oh my God, what a genius. But more often than not, we sit there and we say, man, we didn't get well, why didn't he? Why didn't he make that change? And I think it probably does a disservice to the amount of work that Steve and his coaching staff have done this season, because I think at this point, they probably earned the benefit of the doubt, recognizing that when I joined this show with you back in, what was it, late May, early June, think about how many holes were in this roster. There was no Porteous, there was no Chouanier, there was no Sonny, there was no Morin, there was no Jailson. That all these guys, there were question marks about Smoliakov and who could play in the back line. Tafari wasn't on the radar. He was the 5th center back. Chouanier was nowhere to be found. So yeah, I just think we've seen a rotation of a system, an identity of how they're going to finish out this season. And I'm really excited to see what this looks like against an Austin FC team that I haven't been sold on all year long.
Yeah, I would be shocked if Austin FC pulled this off. This is Inside LAFC podcast live on LAFC, YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram. We're thrilled to expand our audience. We're going to be hopefully get this in on the postseason so we can share the party with all of you guys. Yeah, I would agree with the substitution. These coaches, it's for us, it's easy to second guess, but he knows what these players. And to be honest, when push comes to shove, I think even though the coaching staff has some options. I think they're going to keep it pretty close to the vest. With regards to Sonny, he had a goal. It was a fantastic goal, a combination of Denny Bouanga. He had a really offensively had a really nice play, combining with Mark Delgado in that first half. Again, Colorado's finding ways to collapse on him. And was it his best performance? No, but the fact that when you need it, when you're not getting that ball in the back of the net, he can turn and face goal and slam it in there. That is very comforting. That is very comforting. And that's not going to be an isolated incident by any means.
Yeah, I would, because of his elite reputation, both on and off the field. You and I were lucky enough. We did the Inter Miami game a couple weeks back, and we were talking about Rodrigo de Paul and Alba and Busquets and Messi. And, Luis Suarez wasn't really a factor. But, you and I pointed out that he was a really big factor. And that's because the defenders always had to be concerned about where he was. And that's when I look at, and I literally wrote this down.
Good to write things down because you wouldn't remember it if you didn't.
Well, yeah, because I'm a donkey. But LAFC had 5 in the box, and Denny and Sonny weren't in the box.
Yeah.
There's these like little visual data points that and this maybe it's me coming as a former center back, thinking about how I would even try to slow these guys down in the modern game at the peak of my career. And yeah, I'd give them the thumb in the kidneys, and I'd bump them off the ball, and I do flying tacos the back of the neck. I do all the physical stuff, but I'm constantly thinking about the amount of their movement. You have to have so much general awareness and communication. And you look at Maxo and you look at Holding and how much difficulty they had because
they're really good defenders.
They're just going like this the whole time. They're checking back. They're pulling in. I would feel much more comfortable as a defender with a big guy that I can put a hand on and I can feel where he's going, as opposed to 2 big guys that can run like the wind in any second. And then, to my point, you got Danny and Sonny outside the 18-yard box, and you have multiple guys collapsing. You had Delgado in the box. You had Tillman in the box. You got Palencia in the box. You had Hollingshead in the box. You have all these secondary guys that are death-defying runs for any opponent. So my point being is that the one thing with Sonny and Denny that doesn't come up in goals and assists and touches and all that stuff is just the threat. And I don't know how to really accommodate something like that, but I can tell you, if you were on the field and you were dealing with this, it's their threat of just being on the field will cause so much anxiety for the shape. And I think that's one of the reasons why in that first half, Colorado played such an effective low block, was because they were so scared of getting stretched and understanding with one good through ball, which is Denny's ball, that plays Sonny, that burst past Maxo, that cuts the step overs, that literally slams the ball off the side of Stefan's face to score that goal. That's why it happens. So there's just an overall effectiveness. When we talk about, how effective was he? His presence alone is 1A on the effectiveness category.
Keep in mind also, we've gone through so many MLS Cup playoffs. They are built on chaos. Mistakes happen. And it's going to happen to LAFC opponents. And LAFC fans should feel very, very comfortable that they have Son Heung-min and Denny Bouanga, who clearly can take advantage of mistakes as good as anybody outside of Lionel Messi. And maybe we've seen in San Diego, but they're at the top of the class. And the rest of the team is coming around here to assist in those moments. It's going to happen. Mark my words, and LAFC will take advantage. Inside LAFC podcast, thrilled to be on here every Monday, 12:30 Pacific time, Tuesday, 4:30 in the morning in Korea. Hello to our Korean fans. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. So thanks for everyone tuning in there. Leave a comment or question. We'll get to it. Let's take a look. The Chris talking about the Lloris layoff. It ain't going to happen. This is pure class in Hugo Lloris. And he mentioned, I'm glad it happened now. I'm not in the playoffs. Good point. So he's cataloged that. Certainly he's going to move forward. Ruben, who mentions Andy Miranda would love to extend his loan, reminds me of Lewis O'Brien. We don't know, but what we do know about LAFC, and we've addressed it on this program, they bring in a lot of guys on loan, and clearly the idea is to see who they like, and if there's somebody that say we have to have them, they will do their due diligence to keep them. And I think Andy Morin is providing that, and it's good to see the fans are seeing that as well, because he's a different profile player that you can put in a lot of places.
Well, it's low risk, high reward. I mean, you're effectively, and I don't mean to like trivialize the situation, but I mean you're effectively renting the player to see. It's a lease option to buy, right? This is the idea, and this is where if you're not 100% sure, because you're looking for adaptation, you're looking for language, you're looking for culture, you're looking for all these different things that we talk about. But I think it's also understanding that at this level in this league, it's harder than people give it credit for. And by the way, negotiation tactics, if a player does really well, maybe he's a little bit more expensive, and that's the risk you've taken. Or maybe if you really like the player, you can go back and negotiate. I just think there's proof in concept. However you fall in line with your opinion on Steve Cherundolo and John Thornton, their time together, there's been a lot more successes than there's been failures. And I think Andy's shown from day one, he's good enough to play at this level. It'll just be interesting to see as we start thinking about the offseason after the potential of LAFC lifting an MLS Cup trophy, qualifying for CONCACAF Champions League, how many more options they have available to them to continue to build out the competition for this roster.
Dakug answering Ruben, and goes, I know O'Brien went to Swansea for a while, but then I lost track of him. You may have answered the question, but O'Brien's at Wrexham. So you're going to see a lot of him on Welcome to Wrexham next year.
They're just not doing that well right now.
No, they'll be okay. But look, you're not going to get promoted every year. And I don't think Wrexham is going to get relegated, but they're in those positions. I think they'll be fine. But, you're not going to have this magical season. It's amazing they got this far. A lot of people asking about, do they go to the 4 in the back? Do they stay in the 5 in the back? What do you think?
Can we touch on that real quick?
Yeah.
Here's something that you and I talk about quite often, and we had to do this weekend up in Portland. That we do this thing where, and this is partly our faults as broadcasters, where we have to put up a slate and show the positions of the players that are in the starting 11. And we try our best to give you like a visual identity of how we think in conjunction with conversations with coaching staffs that this is the way it's going to look. The reality is that every single team is playing in multiple formations. It's dependent with the ball, without the ball, the side of the field that the ball is on, the side that you're defending, pinching or taking advantage of space, thinking about opponents' strengths, thinking about their weaknesses. This is what I'll say. And this happened, I would say, probably after when they switched to basically Denny and Sonny playing up top by themselves. What we saw was a hybrid of 3 in the back that always allows Segura to step in the midfield, that always frees Hollingshead, that always gives freedom to Palencia. At times, Swanier or Jailson, whoever's going to play a little bit deeper, can drop in. 2 center backs can split. There's always numbers up. There's always overloads. And then you're allowing both Delgado and Tillman to find the creases and the seams under where both Denny and Sonny are playing. Then when you're defending, you can go to 4 in the back. Because if Hollingshead applies pressure to outside right back, then that means that Segura is going to slide. And then you're playing Tafari and Porteous and Palencia. So just don't get caught up. This is my humble opinion, my suggestion, Max. Don't get caught up in the idea, is it 4 in the back? Is it 3 in the back?
Is it
5 in the
moves?
back? It's not a broad stroke. It's not a factual statement. The way that this team plays in particular, it's with, without, and when you are without the ball, where's the pressure? And the immediacy of the shape will give you a good understanding. It's like a teeter-totter for all you old people out there like us.
Reference.
That's the shape. It's a teeter-totter. So yeah, don't get caught up in hard 4 in the back, hard 3 in the back, hard 5 in the back. It's just not realistic in the modern game. Inside
LAFC podcast. We are live on LAFC YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Fantastic to see all of you here. Brian Dunseth joining us on the show. I want to talk really quickly about the defensive, if we can call them, concerns. We saw the playing out of the back. Evan mentioning this about Lloris. He's been better at his footwork than he was at Spurs because he barely had a chance to use that. And we see when he gets that ball, he can pump it down the field 80 yards, or he can find a defender. So I think it's good to keep playing out of the back, even there was a little blur there. And the other thing is, I would think Colorado, and this could have been a case of a desperate team, getting a lot of set pieces, and that is their meat and potatoes. They got a lot of set pieces, and they would eventually break through. So that's what they do. I think LAC's done a very good job of the best way to prevent set piece goals is to prevent set pieces, and they have limited that. It kind of got away. So I wouldn't look. I think there's a unique circumstance why that happened. I'm not worried about it. For what you said about the formation, to me, gives LAFC such an edge. You're a center back at trade. I mean, just put yourself in that shoes. If you knew you had this almost chameleon back line, which could be 4 or 5, they have Sonny and Denny at the top, or all of a sudden you have fullbacks up there. You have Delgado or Tillman. So many things you can throw in opponents, which is going to keep them on their toes. So I'm fine defensively. I like what I've seen since September. I think this team lock, stock, 2 smoking barrels.
By the way, I'm loving the comments, guys.
If you see one, Dunny, read it.
Yeah, the merry-go-round. Remember the pole where you climb up like 50 feet, shimmy to the middle, and you just drop?
We called this one Spewy Louie because it was like you spewed. Where the more you spun the thing and just went really.
Then you started walking and you're all over the.
And everyone was like, "What?" Afterwards, it was delightful to be a kid back then.
Yeah, and by the way, to finish that point about with the different formations, the different identities. Number one, it's going to be a benefit against any team that you come up against in the playoffs, because the reality is that while San Diego and Vancouver are the 2 teams that will not change their system, no matter what, at home or on the road. They're very similar to the mentality that LAFC has, that there's still going to be tweaks. And should Steve Cherundolo feel more comfortable in one system than the other system, or feel more comfortable pushing someone a little bit, like Smoliakov instead of Hollingshead, something like that, this team is so much better suited to figure out, again, losses to draws, draws to wins, because then we're talking about systems, adjustments, substitution patterns, taking advantage, curve balls that you're throwing against the other opponent tactically, all of these things. And by the way, not just right now, but obviously we understand Steve Cherundolo is leaving at the end of the season. So from an educational standpoint, you now have this melting pot of a group that is already going to be generally aware of whatever the next system is for the incoming manager at some point down the line. So in real time, this education process is going to be incredibly beneficial for the future of LAFC.
Excellent stuff, Dunny. And we'll get to some of the comments inside LAFC podcast. Leave your comment here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're on 4 LAFC platforms. We are thrilled. We're seeing everyone chime in here. Nathan should have come into the game sooner. Nathan was on international duty, and prior to international duty, he had an injury. So I think you got to break Nathan in a little slowly here. And I would 10 days. Yes.
Maxie, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here?
Well, I think the 10 days between games, Nathan's got a chance to work hard and get into that rotation again.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But is anybody in these comments going to say in the 75th minute that they're going to say, we're going to take out 2 guys, and Denny Bouanga and Sung Heung-min, that in a split second are one of the elite few in Major League Soccer, like that can create something out of nothing? That's no disrespect to Abobasi. That's no disrespect to Ordaz. But imagine like the difficulty as a coaching staff. And like if you're telling me fatigue setting in, if you're telling me heavy legs, if you're telling me trying to protect like a muscular issue or something that they're dealing with, that's fine. But like in terms of quality, there's a reason why Denny Bouanga and Sonny are this much higher than virtually everybody else in the league.
Good stuff. Inside LAFC podcast. Let's put a bow on decision day, and let's talk a little bit about the playoffs after that. Decision day drama. Really quickly, because this came up. Carlos Manuel and a lot of people are asking Smoliakov versus Hollingshead. Who will start in the playoffs? Hollingshead or Smoliakov? I'm in Smoley's camp. That's his nickname. I love it. We'll have to see it. He offers us more going forward. Where do you guys stand? I think Smoliakov probably does start because they've both been rotated a bit. But Ryan Hollingshead, a great campaigner, has he lost a bit of a step over the years? Sure. But he falls in the same camp as Denny Bouanga and Sun Heung-min here. When there's a little chaos, Ryan goes, boop, and he can jump on those things. So it's great we have both. I think both are in competition to start. Maybe Smoliakov at home, where there's going to be a lot of go forward, gets to start. But I think either or.
Yeah, Craig in the comment, I want to address that really quick. He's saying that he asked me a few weeks ago about Porteous and Morin. Yeah, listen, Porteous I think has been fantastic. And the moment that Dallas, right? It was Dallas when he came in. I thought immediately this is a guy that would allow them to play in a back three. Because remember, that was at a time when they were really stretched with Segura and Tafari. Even to the point where we've seen Palencia play as a center back this year. And you could play Hollingshead if you needed to in a pinch. Morin, I mean, as a sub coming off the bench, absolutely. In the starting 11, I think it's difficult with Chouanier right now. Maybe Chouanier's at most risk if you're going to say Jailson is going to get the start against Austin, and then Tillman and Delgado. But no, both of those players have absolutely helped. I didn't want to say make the team better, make the squad depth better, because now you have guys that you can turn to, guys that you can trust, and those are huge, huge assets at this stage of the season.
Here's the comments about what you're saying. Let's not forget we had some pretty brutal injuries. Aaron Long, a best 11 defender, Igor Jesus, top player under 22 in the league, top number 6.
One of the best defensive midfielders in the league.
Oh, that, and we don't even talk about it because LAFC have been able to fill that up. John Lee saying we need a true number 6. That was Igor Jesus. Jailson might compete, but with that 8s by committee and Eddie Segura I think they've done a pretty good job with that.
Well, and it was a really late injury. Remember, it was like literally Jailson was free.
Injuries, that Igor Jesus injury would derail most teams. It's like 100%. Wave the white flag, right?
100%. Yep. And then that just goes to show how brilliant inadvertently the Chouanier addition was, because very quietly he's been a 6/8, 2-time MLS All-Star guy with incredible experience. So yeah, they've really checked all the boxes on the summer window.
Let's talk about what happened. Decision day drama. Andy Morin, the comments love him. This goal could be massive, and this is why, because they get a point against Colorado. If they lose that game, Charlotte moves ahead of them in the Supporter Shield standings. So all the CONCACAF Champions Cup spots have been taken except for MLS Cup winner. So LAFC is ahead of all those other teams like Charlotte, New York, Minnesota. Now, Minnesota could have passed LAFC here if they won the game. So LAFC got some help. If any of the teams ahead of LAFC that have already clinched a spot for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, I'll run off the list really quickly, but it's Philadelphia Union. It is Vancouver, San Diego, Seattle winning the Leagues Cup. Nashville won the Open Cup. They've got a spot. You've got Cincinnati, who qualified in the Supporter Shield standings. You have got Inter Miami.
And LA Galaxy.
And LA Galaxy, who are at the back. So those 7 teams, other than the Galaxy, a pretty good chance one of them are going to win MLS Cup. I think you'd have to look at maybe Charlotte, New York City, maybe Minnesota, maybe Columbus. I think are teams that could do it, but that would be a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, my favorites coming out of the Eastern Conference are Miami and Cincinnati, but for different reasons. I think Cincinnati is the most complete team with the biggest amount of offensive assets. At the moment, like Evander and Brenner and Denke, I think they've been fantastic. I know that disrespects the performance and the consistency of Philadelphia. It's not my intent, but with Messi, I think not only playing for himself, but for Busquets and for Jordi Alba, the retirement conversation, I think there's an opportunity for him to do something special, even though defensively they've been a sieve all season long. Vancouver is, for me, going to be the team that goes past Dallas. LA gets past Austin. LAFC, Vancouver, a semifinal. I have no idea how to predict Minnesota against Seattle, especially after the De La Vega injury. One team that wants to play a certain style, the other team plays a completely different style. And then I think San Diego gets past whoever comes out of Portland and Real Salt Lake. So I think we have a lot more clarity on the best teams. But as I say that, I don't think any of us had LA Galaxy playing host to New York Red Bulls in the MLS Cup final last year.
So just to make that clear, if all those 7 teams, one of them wins it, LAFC will move into the CONCACAF Champions Cup groups. So it looks good. Is it 100%? No. If they win MLS Cup, they have a chance. So they have 2 streams sowing. So a big goal from Andy Morin. I want to mention something else about Decision Day, the Golden Boot. It was Denny Buang and Lionel Messi. Messi grabbed it by the throat there, getting 2 goals in the penultimate matchup last week and then getting a hat trick here. He got an assist. So he ends up with 29, a fantastic year. I know he played less games, but he played 28 games. He didn't catch the record of goals set by Carlos Vela at 34. I don't know if anyone's going to catch it, but the goal contributions that year in 2019, Vela ended up with 34 and 15, so 49. Messi ended up with 29 and 19, so it's 48. So one more goal and assist, he would have tied Carlos Vela. So LAFC history is maintained, even though Vela played more games. Water under the bridge.
Yeah, you might have buried the lead there. Vela had a few more games.
Whatever it is.
Yeah,
no one remembers. 5 years from now, no one will remember.
Messi had 6 less games, just for clarity's sake. But hey, maybe that comes along with the fact that he didn't play in the All-Star game down in Austin. So, self-inflicted or just a byproduct. But the reality is, he, Anders Dreyer, Evander, another back-to-back season, 15 goals, 15 assists. And Denny's run was extraordinary. Sonny, their partnership. I think we're really. I was saying this morning on my show on SiriusXM. We are really lucky with the world and kind of the modern game of where we live right now, and being able to watch Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, and watching what Sonny and Denny are doing in real time. We are really, really fortunate football fans that we have the access to being able to watch so many games in 2025, even though it's way more expensive than any of us predicted. We're pretty lucky to be able to watch these players play.
Vela's record is going to stand for a long time, Taku. Nobody else on the planet cares about that stat about the game. So there, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Juice 323. Yeah, Dunny with one of those on there. One of the little emojis. Here we go. So here we go through these comments. Very good. I will move that decision day drama. I think you see the standings. I saw someone mention with LAFC finishing third in the West that they prefer that they avoid San Diego first and Seattle fifth. So if you get by Austin, you will face Vancouver. I would careful what you wish for, but I think that's not too bad. We saw San Diego up and close on decision day. They ran Portland out of their park. That team looks terrifying. And I look, LAFC lost twice to them, but that second game at BMO Stadium, and if they play San Diego, they're going to have to go down to Snapdragon. That second game, LAFC had it. They had them on the ropes. So I feel good if those two play each other. It's not going to be a Portland situation, but man, that team, really impressive.
Yeah, I think, and by the way, they did it without Chucky Lozano. Chucky staying in Southern California, wasn't even on the trip, and Mikey Barras kind of alluded to something a little bit more sinister behind the scenes of why he wasn't available, had nothing to do with injury. But, we were, I think after the game in Portland, we were kind of chatting, just you and I and Herman, just about, it was almost as if like Portland, Real Salt Lake, Colorado, and San Jose were trying not to make the playoffs because nobody really wanted to nail down that 8th and 9th position. And Portland, man, that's just one win in their last 10 matches since the League's Cup break. And to your point, Anders Dreyer had 2 goals and assists. Pellegrino, who wasn't used at all by Bruce Arena, got his 2 goals. And they had 72% possession, 17 shots. It's like 9 big chances created. And so I don't understand what Portland, I think I know what they are. And it's a playoff team right now. I don't know what they really are, which is a team that psychologically, it's going to be a big challenge to come back from that result and play Real Salt Lake on Wednesday. But I could see the world. I see the Western Final, LAFC against San Diego.
Oh, put your predictions in there. Let's talk about the playoffs. This is Inside LAFC Podcasts. We are live every Monday, 12:30 Pacific time. We are live on LAFC YouTube, Facebook, X. The X number is amazing. Instagram. I can't have everything open here because I couldn't be able to talk here normally because I can't do 4 things.
You can barely focus on one thing.
Yeah. Jay Shawnee, Ange in. I think there was some tongue in cheek. Ange Postecoglou out at Nottingham. We need attacking football. I want to say this about Steve Cherundolo as he's going to have his final season. You look at a coach, and I don't know if this always happens. And look at the bottom of the screen, just a reminder, MLS Cup playoffs, game 1, LAFC Austin, BMO Stadium. It's next Wednesday, October the 29th, 7:30 Pacific time. Second game is on Sunday in Austin. And someone mentioned that why does Miami have a week and LAFC has 3 days? There's a lot of stuff that goes into that with stadiums and travel and TV schedules. So that's the way it is. Don't worry about Miami and how many games. Worry about Austin. And Austin has the same amount of games. days between games as LAFC. I want to say this quickly about Steve Cherundolo. He's going to leave. He's going to have a new challenge. Maybe he comes back to LA or MLS soon. This team is in amazing shape for whoever takes over. And that's Steve's work and John Thornton's work. They have re-signed Nate Ordaz last week. They re-signed Timothy Tillman. They have re-signed Sergi Palencia. Son Heung-min and Denny Bouanga are locked in for contracts. They are all happy. So when Steve steps away, whoever takes over is going to be like, oh my, this is the best job ever. There's going to be a lot of pressure, mind you. But Steve, and we'll see how the playoffs go. I mean, if he could be leaving, he could be giving the next guy a lot of pressure. But this club, whoever walks in, is going to have very few things to have to loose ends because of what Steve has done to leave it in the best position. And I've spoken to him about it, and he's meticulous about wanting to do that. He loves this club and the time here. He wants to make sure they're on good footing afterwards.
Yeah, listen, I've told this to you many times and here on the show. I got a soft spot for Steve. He and I grew up playing together from our time on the Olympic team into the national team. I think he's, in terms of a human being, one of the most genuine, 100% facing forward human beings that you're ever going to come across. I was one who was concerned about the opportunity when he took the job, thinking it might be too soon, it might be too big. But I couldn't have been more wrong. And I've always been surprised, and I've tried to place my analytical perspective on him in two boxes. One, separating my personal feelings about who he is as a person and the human being that I know, versus the way that he's managed this group of players and the way he's handled himself with the press and with the fans. And I think I'd use one example, and it's a very simple example. And it has nothing to do with results. It has to do with the caliber of the player that has come to LAFC and has spoken so highly of him, and that has played for him, and that has never stepped out of line and caused problems. And you think about the laundry list of players, the Gareth Bales and the Chiellinis, the Hugo Llorises, the Olivier Giroux, these type of players, now the Son Heung-mins, that have come into this club and have had these glowing recommendations of Steve, that have talked so highly about Steve. That speaks more to me than just results. And by the way, I'm old enough to remember the days of Bob Bradley and watching the success that the club had and laying the blueprint of success as an expansion team. And John Thornton going with the path less traveled, going with probably the more inexperienced guy as opposed to going in a different direction. And I think if you would have projected to any of LAFC fan the amount of finals that he would guide this club to, without the jeopardy of understanding if they won or lost, I think a lot of people would sign up for that. So my hope is in real time, with only a few games left in the season, that the amount of respect that he has deserved to be shown, you can still judge him on wins and losses. But I think overwhelmingly, his tenure as LAFC head coach is going to be seen as an incredible success. And that's going to be big shoes to fill for John Thornton to figure out what direction comes next for the club once this season, 2025, comes to an end.
We will preview that LAFC Austin game next Monday right here, since it's on the following Wednesday. So we'll roll up our sleeves for that. So get ready for that. It's on 7:30 Pacific time, October 29th. So check for tickets. Make that place a cauldron. So LAFC, just so you know, with the playoff format, we'll go through some questions here quickly before we wrap it up here. LAFC, it's best of 3. Win 2 games, you advance. So if LAFC wins game 1, then they have some wiggle room in game 2, but they'll want to go down there and take care of game 2. But if something bad happens, they'll have game 3. So if they win game 1, they'll be in very good shape. Did see some good comments here. Will the players miss any games on international November window? No, because the league takes it off.
Yep.
It's a big gap. It makes the playoffs a little disjointed, or a lot disjointed, but it is what it is. We've gotten used to it. So there will be no international breaks being missed for there, which is good for across the board. Because I don't know if MLS would have done that so many years in the past, but they are adjusting a lot. They're doing their best to honor the international windows. So here we go. I don't think LAFC will lose early. Let's get real now. But I hear what you're saying about he could potentially move to the Bundesliga for a short term. I don't know if that was about Son, but we will see. If you have a quick prediction about who's going to do it, you heard it from Dunny. He's got San Diego LAFC in the West. Who would be your pick in the East?
Unfortunately, Cincinnati and Miami would face each other in the semifinals. So I think Philadelphia is the most complete team out of Charlotte, NYCFC, and then Philly would play the winner of Chicago and Orlando City. Orlando City's just such a strange outlier. Charlotte's been great at home at the Bank, but the Will Zaha red card was beyond stupidity. So I think I'll go Cincy Philly final, even though I feel like that's a lot of disrespect to what Miami and company can do.
I like it. I think I would align with those four as well. Some people are mentioning who Son Heung-min should bring in now that he wants to get some of his buddies in here.
Great Rolodex, man. Great Rolodex.
Uni Ensif, Son Heung-min and De Bruyne, best buddies. The world needs to see Son and Salah duo. I don't think Salah comes to LAFC, but Salah is like a guy that could have a similar impact like Son. Instead of the Asian footballer, you have the African footballer. I would love to see him come to MLS in some way, shape, or form. I think it would make a lot of sense. And by the way, did you see how chummy Son Heung-min and Kim Min-jae are at international duty? They're inseparable. So maybe, who knows?
Yeah. The kid that had Sonny written in the side of his head.
And Kim was making fun of him. And Son was like, oh, hey, it looks good. It looks good on you.
Yeah, I know we're getting a question about what happens if Austin FC sits deep. They will. And it'll be there's going to be a level of ownership for LAFC specific to home where they're going to have to recognize. But by the way, there's they had it happen against Toronto. They've had it happen against a couple teams where they're going to understand there's a responsibility to take the game at the opponent. I think the movement and the freedom of Denny Bouanga and Sonny to interpret positions actually will cause defenders to be moved around a little bit more than they would probably like. Nico Estevez, similar to Eric Ramsey, they have a less aesthetically pleasing style of football, but that's at the same time been super successful this season. Owen Wolf, for me, hands down, is by far Austin FC's best player. Uzuni, O'Brien, Taylor, functionally decent players. I think the one player that will probably cause the most amount of issues if he is healthy, it'll be Diego Rubio, but I think he's got a bit of a hamstring injury just because Diego's a master of the dark arts and manipulating moments into his team's favor. But CJ Fadri could be a guy that's just like an old Steven Lenhart, Alan Gordon type of guy that just, is a bull in a china shop causing havoc. So again, it's not going to be easy, but I think if you're talking about style of play, LAFC has an innate understanding of how to play against low blocks and create chances. They just got to be efficient with their opportunities.
Great answer to a question that was there, and I think we'll leave it at that. We'll preview more of these games. I mean, Dakug mentioning Rolodex and teeter-totter. I thought I was the old man here. Should we expect another level from Son for the playoffs? I say yes, but remember, this is the first time Son's going to be experiencing playoffs. So it's all new and exciting.
Yeah.
Dunny, good stuff, my friend. We'll see you again here.
Appreciate
Same place, same time. Next Monday, we'll preview that game against Austin and all the MLS Cup playoffs. Tune in on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. We'll be here on all the LAFC social media channels. Until we meet again, this is Max saying, let's go Black and Gold.